And liberals once again are completely missing the point. Joining me with reaction, radio talk show host, author of Dear Father, Dear Son, Larry Elder's back with us, and Tea Party activist from Americans for Prosperity, Jennifer Stefano. What we just heard was pretty blockbuster.
It's pretty disappointing to hear that kind of thing, Sean. The logical extension of that is let's only send out white males because they can't be attacked for their gender or for their race. President Obama, during the debate, remember, famously was adamant that he called this a terror attack from day one. If that is true, why didn't the Susan Rice go out 3 days later, or Petraeus go out 3 days later? Why does Rice go out 5 days later? If Obama said during the debate it was a point of contention, Candy Crowley rescued him, remember? I said it was a terror attack from day one.
Well, then why did she say it 5 days later? We
Tell me about
that last night.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, Jennifer, this seems that this is just an extension. Anybody that's talking about this is shallow, ill-informed, and they're political, because if they want to say that this is a war on women or play the race card, they're in campaign mode. Fair analysis?
Sure. This is the dying embers of feminism that you see popping up here, that somehow this is some young put upon woman. This is an ambassador to the UN. Now, either she's qualified to be there or she is not. And if she's not qualified to be there because she's a girl, then fine. Exactly as Larry's saying, they just don't put women in there. I think it's degrading. It is totally degrading, Sean, to women, and it undercuts us all.
I don't even want to get too lost in that, because I think it's a distraction. We just heard from two congressmen who were in the room. The few things we learned tonight, we corroborated, in fact, there was 2 tapes. One got there later, but they had 1 tape in real time. And the second thing that they're saying is that the intelligence community, which the White House and even the president yesterday said, did not mention al-Qaeda or terror, in fact did.
The CIA station chief on the ground immediately called it a terror attack related to al-Qaeda.
And so did the Libyan president. It was telling everybody this is a terror attack.
This is the political season. This is the narrative the Obama administration was pushing. We've got al-Qaeda on the run. We joined with the British and the French bombing Libya, getting rid of Gaddafi. Libya now is a friend of ours. It blew that whole narrative up. Obama had the kill list out too. Remember, he's this hands-on commander-in-chief. That was his narrative going into the election, and Benghazi blew that. That is why this story evolved. Whether it was a cover-up, whether it was a fog of intelligence, whether it was intentional, we're going to find out.
2 weeks later? As I was asking these 2 congressmen, it doesn't seem plausible.
Doesn't add up.
It doesn't seem plausible. Right. There's something, and this is exactly the Obama administration. Instead of taking responsibility, instead of stepping forward to the plate, it's divert and defend. You notice he keeps putting it back on the intelligence community, He is the president of the United States. He sent an ambassador out there, the UN ambassador, to say that it was because of a video. And by the way, the job of that ambassador and the president is to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States, including free speech. He should have never blamed it on a video, even if that was somewhat part of the truth. And the idea now, they don't know who took out the talking points and they're blaming it on the intelligence community.
Well, they also want as a distraction the whole General Petraeus affair issue. Now, we do know there are reports that, in fact, certain documents that she shouldn't have were that she had available to herself, and she gives a speech back in October, and she's saying, well, everybody knows that they were holding militia. Now, this came up in the hearing today, and they're saying that that is totally false, but maybe in light of everything else that has not turned out to be true, do we need to get an answer to that?
I think so. And Sean, remember the press conference yesterday, a question that should have been answered was, General Petraeus testified with this cockamamie narrative. Was he testifying buying the line of the White House because he was under investigation by the FBI and his fate was in the White House's hand? Is that what caused him to alter his testimony? That question was not asked.
Yeah. And that question, because I think one thing we need to remember here is that this is not about an affair. This isn't about a salacious story. This is about 4 men who are dead. 4 Americans who are dead, and the United States government under President Obama did not address the issue, did not send help when it was asked. And that has to be answered as to why. And I think it is very concerning that after an election, all of this information comes out, and we do need those questions answered. But good luck getting it from an administration that is the least transparent administration in modern American history.
All right, there's a couple things happening with General Petraeus, who will testify tomorrow behind closed doors. One is that General Petraeus apparently wants to clarify some things. Another thing that came out in one of the newspapers today was, I think it was the Washington Post, that Petraeus was at odds with his bosses prior to this because he felt that the intelligence community was being portrayed in an unfavorable light, and he wanted to correct that record. And apparently there was conflict there. Now, he also knows that the administration knew about the affair. But then the president's saying, I didn't know until 2 days after the election. But Eric Holder knew all summer.
Right.
Is that plausible?
Meanwhile, Obama is meeting with Petraeus every single day as his head of his CIA, while Petraeus is being under investigation for having been possibly compromised. And for some reason, Eric Holder does not tell the president as he's giving Petraeus sensitive information.
Are
you kidding me?
And this is a president then that sits down with his cabinet. He is not in control of his own government. If there was some information that could be used against the director of the CIA in order to extract information from him to help foreign nationals, the president of the United States should have been the first person to know about it. That is, there's either a lie here, Sean, or a cover-up.
We have 4 dead Americans. The first ambassador killed in
30 years.
30 years.
We've got 2 Navy SEALs that were killed here and another American.
In a firefight that took 7 hours, and maybe, just maybe, there might have been able to have been help.
Well, that's the one question that we still don't have answered. Did they request help? Is there tapes available of that? This, again, this is just the beginning, really, of the investigative process. The question, though, that I have is, what would their possible motive be for lying about this? I have some ideas, but I want to get yours.
I think I touched on it earlier, Sean. It's the narrative. The narrative is we've got al-Qaeda on the run. Obama was able to bring a better situation to the Middle East than that cowboy George W. Bush. And Benghazi blows that whole thing up. And remember, this is during an election. It makes the administration look incompetent, if not deceitful. And they didn't want to do that.
And you'll remember, Sean, Obama was trying to win the women vote. He felt very strongly that women don't like war. They don't like roughness. It's why Romney pulled back on the Libya question, I believe. And I think he did it for political show, and I have a real problem believing that a sitting president of the United States did not know that the head of his CIA was embroiled in an affair that could have possibly compromised national security. If the president didn't know, he was out of control of his government, and he still seems out of control of his government. That is an enormous problem. And there's either a level of incompetence here or a massive cover-up.
And he was pretty passive on the issue of whether or not he should have been notified during the press conference. Well, I'll look at it, and we'll find out whether or not I should have been notified. Aren't you upset that you weren't, Mr. President?
Yeah,
apparently not.
I would think so. I would think on both fronts, on the Petraeus front and on this issue, that if the White House, sent out Susan Rice and she had a story that was false 5 days later, and he's advancing a false narrative 2 weeks later, I would be pretty angry if I'm the president. And he seemed angrier at the attacks on Susan Rice. I've got to run, but guys, good to see you both. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Now.